How do you love yourself all of the time? This is really important because sometimes things falter, things get in the way of how you want to do life. I spent so many years of my life feeling less than, feeling like I wasn't wanted. That was a really hard pill to swallow. What I'm going to cover is ways that you can love yourself all of the time, how the lack of self compassion can show up in your life, and the number one tool that you can use to make sure that you are navigating this world with a higher sense of self compassion. Because when you have a higher sense of self compassion, that's when life starts to look good for you. That's when life starts to look the way you want it to look. And it's only when you have self compassion that you are able to really lean into loving yourself all of the time. As far back as I can remember, I didn't realize this until after my second divorce and I was in therapy. And in therapy, I uncovered that underlying baseline of not really feeling wanted, not knowing I had a place in this world, not really seeing myself, just existing and living, but not seeing you. And there's a difference. You know, when you're in a relationship or you have friendships and the people are just doing life and they don't really see you. That's how I was doing to myself. I wasn't seeing myself. And the signs of that, there are the signs of that is that you might have an underlying feeling of not being wanted, and it shows up in your life and how you choose your friends, the relationships you're in, whether you're going after your goals and dreams or not, whether you are committed to the thing you said you truly want. How committed are you to the thing you truly want? Are there things that you've said, hey, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then you just don't do them? And you've said it year after year after year. Now, we've had other love intelligence talks, and we talked about there's other reasons why you may not be doing it, which could be that it's time to pivot. However, in this instance, there are times when you are not fully in love with yourself. And what that looks like is that self-compassion. Self-compassion is huge. When I say loving all of you all of the time, it's having that self-compassion. I know that the lack of that showed up in my life early on. I think I was probably in my 30s by the time I understood, because I went to therapy and started going to counseling. By the time I understood that there was this area that was missing. So it's really important that we understand what gets in the way of loving yourself all the time. And loving yourself can look like so many different things. Based on where we are in life, it could be that we're having a lack of self-compassion in the area of our body and our weight. It could be that we're having a lack of self-compassion in our goals or in our relationships. Most of the time, there's one area that is glaring more than the others. And then there's sometimes in life, like me, back before the age of 30, where it was like my entire life was in question. You know, whether I was on the rat race and, like I said, not accomplishing those goals, bringing certain friends who perpetuated my feeling of not feeling wanted, certain friends, certain relationships, and everyone has something different. But that was my story. And that was what led me to really diving into this thing called love and this self-love journey and developing Love CEO Institute and finishing my one-woman show. So those are the things that I really want us to focus on so that we can bust past what could be holding us back and lean into the things that are going to propel us to having the life that we want, to enjoying the journey. So let me tell you, the number one the number one challenge, which I just gave that away, the biggest enemy to self-compassion is criticism. That includes your inner critic. Kim said, I used to always try to please before I realized loving me. That was me, perpetual people pleaser. And even today, I have to stop, back up. Nope, that's the old Tosh. Stop it. Keep it moving. We have to remind ourselves. That's why I commend y'all who are in the academy. I commend you for even coming to the Love Intelligence Talks. I commend you all who go into the portal and listen to the lessons over and over again, because that is a way for us to stay connected to ourselves so that these inner critics aren't getting the best of us. Okay? I feel like I'm yelling. Sorry, y'all. I get so passionate about this. Brene Brown says, you cannot show compassion for those you have not given boundaries. If someone's constantly hurting you, how can you show compassion for them? When I first grasped that concept, I always thought about it from the outside. Oh, these people, I must give boundaries so then I can have compassion for them. So then I can love them. But let's look at it from the inside out. How can you have true self-compassion and love for someone who's constantly hurting you? Even if it's subconscious. Is that critic hurting you? Yes, yes. And Shay said, criticize myself a lot, but I sometimes correct myself. Yes, correcting yourself in your thoughts. We are human. We are not robots. So just understanding and having this in your consciousness, and me bringing this to your mind right now, and whatever tools you've taken up for yourself over the previous years, use them. Use them like there's no tomorrow. And I'm going to give you a couple of other tools right now. One of the tools that can help you with that inner critic. Have you ever had a situation where there was some problem with somebody and then you just looked at them and said, is everything okay? Should we talk about this? And that just diffused. It took the weight out of that. This is what we need to do to our inner critic. We need to look it in the face and say, yo, homie, I see you. Those are my words. But whatever you want to use, like, yo, I see you. Let's talk about this. Okay, so the acknowledgement, one way to shut up the inner critic is acknowledging the inner critic. You have to acknowledge, because most of the time, and this is full transparency moment. So over the last, 6 months, I've put on more weight. I don't fit my clothes. That's how I gauge. Do I fit my clothes? Do these jeans fit? Can I wear that dress? Nah. There's some jeans, some shorts that just aren't getting put on. Can't even zip them up. And I found that I was walking past the mirror going, you need to lose that. Oh, this is looking kind of funny. Oh, this is hanging over. Like I was literally just talking about myself. And what I had to do, which I use all these tools that I tell y'all for myself, but what I had to do is lean into loving on me. But what I did is I looked and said, why are you being rude? Like it was almost having those conversations like, what's up? Why are you talking to me like that? Oh no, honey. And literally I'm in the mirror having this conversation. And then I just began to love on myself. Love on myself like there's no tomorrow. So now as I'm walking past the mirror, I'm either going, yes, girl, look at that honk. Or if I have that thought of, oh, you still got to lose, I will stop and say, you look amazing and you're doing the best that you can, honey. So keep it pushing, beautiful. We have to have those conversations. So let me give you a couple of tools. There's something called the compassion chair, and it's 4 parts. Within the compassion chair, number 1 is the role of the critic. We don't really listen to or have that out of body experience of the critic. We need to take a moment and acknowledge when it's happening, because most of the time when we are criticizing ourselves, we're just in it. We're in our feelings. So inner critic, the compassion chair, part 1, be the critic. Sit in that chair and play the role. Sit in the space of being the inner critic. What are those things that you say to yourself? Call it on the carpet. Put it out there. Part 1, play the critic. Then when you are done with that, you've exhausted all those crazy things you've said to yourself. This is very similar to the negative thoughts, positive truths, but this is just a different concept. Be the critic. Say all those things that you say to yourself. Number 2, acknowledge the feeling. Acknowledge how that makes you feel. Imagine if someone was standing in front of you saying those things to you. How does it make you feel? Do you feel like a failure? I was feeling insecure. If I said, what do I feel when someone's going, girl, that gut, insecure, it makes me feel insecure. I feel like a failure. Part 3, have a dialogue between the two perspectives. So in therapy, let's say you go to couples therapy, you end up sitting there and speaking what you feel, and then the other one's, oh, I see what you're saying, I hear you, but this is how I feel. Have that inner conversation. Like, introduce the critic and your feeling self and say, when you talk to me like that, it really makes me feel this kind of way. And then the critics is like, well, I just know we ain't never really been in this weight before, and I feel like you could do better than that. Just get an understanding of each side. Then the final stage, which is part 4, is be your own wise counsel. Whenever you would be having a challenge with someone, a challenge with a friend, or a challenge with a sibling, you would go to someone to talk about this. So be your wise counsel. If you were counseling a friend on how they're feeling about this inner critic, what would you say to them? We know you can do it. Love yourself the way you are. We know you're enjoying the journey while you're on the way to where you are. You got this. I know you can do it. You are absolutely beautiful in your own skin. And then what if you were counseling the critic? Be more gentle. You can be loving. We really want you to confront this critic and say, enough. Enough of your immaturity. That's called the compassion chair. I really want you to try this. And when you do this compassion chair, your homework, so mark this as homework because I want you to put this in the chat. After you finish this compassion chair, because this is going to drum up a lot of stuff, right? Once you've done that, I want you to list your top 20 most amazing characteristics. This might be a challenge for some of y'all because we be beating ourselves up. I know at different stages in my life it might be a little challenging. I want you to spend some time on this. Set the timer, 15 minutes, 30 if you have to, and write your most amazing 20 characteristics and post it in the group. So now, your inner critic is the biggest enemy to your self-compassion and self-love. So how do you love all of yourself all of the time? You faced this critic, you got rid of that challenge. Now you want to counteract whatever's coming up, the positive affirmations, with looking the critic in the face and be like, I hear you, honey, but no, I'm feeling myself. So stop it. Like, you got to play the game. But let's talk about the most effective tool for self-compassion, for loving yourself all the time, which is acceptance. And that's what the compassion chair exercise will help you do. Acceptance is the most effective tool when it comes to self-love and self-compassion. When you sit in who you are in this moment and say, I see you, I love you, I accept you for exactly who you are, then I want you to take that moment and mark it. Because every time you are having these moments, it's going to be time to accept who you are. Getting to the acceptance, when you make that list of all your most amazing characteristics, it's not just something that I'm giving you to do. Natasha gave me these exercises. She wants me to come on this. It is literally a way for you to see you, It goes back to what I mentioned earlier, where you're in those relationships, you're navigating the world, and you just aren't being seen for who you really are. Acceptance. Accept who you are. Accept where you are. Accept the moment that you're having in this moment. If you're at work and you're like, I'm stressed, and just like, I'm not supposed to be stressed, so you shove it down and you're pushing it under the rug and you're like, I got this. When we're like, yo, I'm a bit overwhelmed in this moment. And I accept that because I do know what's on the other side. So loving yourself all the time, the main superpower tool is acceptance.